Remember Robinson Crusoe, deserted on an island? He survived to tell his story. But apart from finding his man Friday, he did something else that was key to his survival. He changed the smell of the small island and made it worth living on.
Trinidad, April 1989. A little-known company, Ispat, took charge of a Caribbean steel company which was losing $1 million a day. A year later, the turnaround began, and almost a decade later, in '97, it was earning $49 million. And the man who changed the face of the company was none other than the doctor of sick plants, Lakshmi Narayan Mittal. His prescription was simple: change the smell of the place. He got rid of American and German managers who were at the helm of affairs, and instead of inundating the company with new technology and capital, he did something more basic. He tried to change the attitudes of the people, more importantly, the way they thought and acted.
Hello and welcome to Lessons in Excellence. This is going to start off swiftly. SUMANTRA, what do you mean by changing the smell of the place?
Last 8 years now, I taught at the London Business School. I lived in London, continue to live in London. Before that, for 8 years, I taught at Insite, which is in Fontainebleau in France, and I lived in Fontainebleau. And before that, I was in Boston for a while. But my hometown is Calcutta. So for 20 years, I think till year before last, when my kids came out of the educational system, for 20 years, every year, in the month of July, we will all come back to Calcutta, almost for a month. Why in July? The real point of the trip was to keep my children in touch with my parents. The only time they had sufficiently long break was the summer, so July. Now Calcutta is a great place and I'm a Bengali. But think about it. Downtown Calcutta in July, right? The temperature is what, 104, 105? What is worse is the humidity. The humidity is 99%. Put the two together. Most of my vacation I'll be tired. A lot of it I'll be indoors. Much of it actually in bed. And then immediately after that, I'd go back to Fontainebleau. Now, I don't know if you know Fontainebleau. It's a very chic little town about 40 miles south of Paris. And what makes it a wonderful place to live, it's bang in the middle of this protected forest, the forest of Fontainebleau, one of the prettiest forests in all of Europe. Walk into the forest of Fontainebleau in spring. Walk in just to have a leisurely walk, and you can't. This is not academic BS, you really can't. There is something about the fresh smell of the trees. There is something about the crispness of the air around you in spring. You will find after 5, 10, 15 minutes, you're jumping up to catch a branch, you're jogging, you're throwing a stone, you're doing something, not having a leisurely walk. And that, I think, is the essence of this issue of revitalizing people. Most companies, particularly these old traditional companies, they end up creating downtown Calcutta in summer inside themselves.
How? What are the things they do, don't do, which makes it Calcutta 104 degrees?
Before you look at do, look at the people. The offices are grey, the rooms are grey, the people are grey. Hear the sound, how they talk. Look at how they walk. That is a depressive corporate atmosphere inside. When we look at people and say, oh, look, you don't have energy, you are lethargic. The problem is not that person. I have all the energy, he or she has all the energy, all the creativity. The problem is the management that ends up creating this downtown Calcutta in summer context inside that saps away all that energy, that saps away the creativity.
Is that the smell of that place then?
You know, I use the metaphor of smell of the place, the smell of the Fontainebleau forest in spring. But the issue to understand is a problem. Senior managers have a problem, which is the air is always fresh and crisp and clear at the top of the mountain. Question is, what does the air smell like at the footings, right? Where salespeople are selling, production people are making, what does it smell like? And what we try to capture with that construct is this notion, pay attention. It is beyond the structures, it is beyond the strategies, it is beyond culture change programs. It is all the things that you do in a company that ends up creating this context that takes away all the capacity that your own people have.
So what is the kind, give us the characteristics of this company which is actually like downtown Calcutta in 104 degrees. What are the characteristics?
You know, I think there are four most important elements of that characteristic. First, senior managers in these companies, you know, they are the bosses. They create all the strategy, they work very hard, you know, by product, by market, what shall we do, how shall we do it? They write it down in confidential documents and they circulate it in numbered copies telling everybody exactly what to do. What does it do to those people? These things that come down from the top. They're constrained, they feel constrained, they're coming down, I'm constrained. Second is compliance. All the systems these companies have created, budgeting systems, planning systems, HR systems, operating systems, each system is actually necessary, it's legitimate. But put them all together and understand what does it do to this guy down there, the salesman. Those systems hang above him like a black cloud. He looks up, I have to comply. Compliance. Control. Why does my boss exist? As far as that guy can see, for one reason only, to control him. Control. And then finally, contract. We are increasingly making the relationship between the company and the individual one of contract. Budget is a contract. Job is a contract. Those are the four.
Targets are contract.
The four horrible C's, I call them.
Four horrible C's. is something that you'd say typical of a lot of Indian companies which are caught in the old mindset.
Definitely, and in a sense I see it actually increasing.
Whether constraint, compliance, control, contract is actually increasing as Indian companies are gaining in size and possibly getting buffeted more by competition. They're sort of adding more of the four C's.
There is a way out, because it's not ingrained yet in our systems. So companies, if they really take care, they can get out of what Western companies in the West were doing in the 70s and 80s. They can go straight into the 21st century.
Welcome back. The new boss wants things his way, and the old boys refuse to vacate their turf. It's a difficult balancing act. Again, all it needs is to change the smell of the place.
How does it smell inside a traditional company? It smells like the horrible 4 C's: constraint, compliance, control and contract. Senior managers have all the experience. They strategize, they take decisions and guide the workforce. For the frontline employee, he or she is a constraint. The second of the horrible C's: compliance. Top managers create all kinds of systems, human resources, planning, budgeting and the likes. On the factory floor, these become norms which employees have to comply with. The third horrible C: control. The boss is always right. He exists to dominate over his subordinates. The boss is an emblem of control. Finally, contract. A job is a contract. So are relationships between colleagues and departments. Thus emerges the need to change the mindset, change the smell of the place.
Well, Sumantra, now we've seen what the 4 horrible C's do to a company. How do you come out of the 4 horrible C's?
You know, I think the most important effect here is the role of top management. First change, top managers from, instead of seeing themselves as the grand strategist, I had to take all decisions and then communicate it down and tell everybody what to do, from that role of grand strategist, resource allocator. If top management rethinks their role, their job is not that. Their job is to create an exciting sense of purpose, a vision, a set of values, bring that vision, values down to the level of each individual, which then changes from this feeling of constraint, I'm constrained, to a feeling of stretch, a sense of opportunity. Top management, through that vision, creates a sense of opportunity. That is the first transformation, from constraint to stretch. Similarly, I said systems create compliance. My argument is not that you should eliminate all systems and let everybody do everything.
That's
not
not
at all
possible.
argument.
You can't do that.
The
Can you?
switch is from compliance to discipline. This is a very subtle one, but its effect is enormous. Compliance is something external. They are there, I look up, I comply. Discipline is when those things become internal. Self-discipline in people, discipline in management processes based on clear, rigorous performance management processes, feedback processes, so that it's not that what you do to your child, you help your child become disciplined, not all the time to compliant.
So you're saying you set them free, so let them get out of the constraint and feel that they can stretch, but at the same time instill discipline
inside them and in the management processes, from compliance to discipline. Then similarly from contract to support. When people really believe, that the reason their bosses exist is to help them win, the real question is, who is there to help whom win? I work for you. Am I here to help you win, or are you there to help me win? At the end, that's the inversion of the pyramid. Support them with your coaching, with your mentoring, with your guidance. Support them by helping them gain access to resources they need to do their jobs well. So that's the third one, from control to support. And finally, the last, which is also, I think, the most profound of all, from contract to trust. And that too, trust, not sort of very instrumental trust. You and I make a deal, you'll keep your side of the deal. Trust that is much more than that. Trust says, if you carry that card and I carry that card, I trust you as a default mode till you prove that you don't deserve that trust. So you go from the horrible 4 C's, constraint, compliance, control, contract, to this Fontainebleau forest and spring, stretch, discipline, trust and support.
Now, is there a danger when you make this transition? Is there a danger of controls and fetters going off too quickly and things not degenerating but things teetering?
Absolutely. That is why sometimes it is seen, Fontainebleau forest, oh, it's a wonderful place, everybody does everything, everybody is free. The discipline is the foundational requirement for creating this Fontainebleau forest, like any human life.
So when do you figure out, it's like, again, let me go back to the child example that you gave. Every parent is always grappling with that, how much of freedom, what if I let go, does the child have the discipline to follow, if I leave the chocolates on the table, does he have the discipline, does she have the discipline to only have one? I mean, at what stage do you decide that the fetters can come out?
I think it's exactly that issue. A careful judgment about that evolution. However, we have one advantage. The advantage you have is, in reality, you're not dealing with children. You're dealing with adults. And adults, if there is one experience that I have felt working with companies on this, which is we underestimate how quickly people adapt, how quickly you keep somebody in prison. You open the doors and the person comes out. First 2 minutes he or she blinks with the sunlight, but they adapt very quickly. Human beings are like that. Give them the freedom, let them stretch, try to build a discipline, give them support, create a context of trust. They don't happen in 3 months, but they don't take as long as you might think. Trust people.
GITA, in traditional Indian companies, I mean, which will obviously want to make this transition, we've discussed this before, where you feel the 4 C's are not really out of the system yet. Isn't it a bit of a catch-22? Because I come back to that parent-child example. How much chocolate do you leave on the table? Do you trust in the discipline? You trust the child, but do you trust that the instincts of discipline have developed? So is it a catch-22 in these companies? Well, how much do they let go?
Well, let's just look at HDFC.
What makes employees tick at HDFC? The company has grown to industry leadership with a profit of 580 crore rupees in 2002, with very little addition to its workforce. HDFC has 130 offices spread across the country with a staff strength of 1,000. But numbers don't speak for the dedication that is embedded in the organization. It comes from an informal atmosphere. HDFC employees are given large responsibilities early in their careers. With free sharing of information, the employees are bound to the company through a sense of ownership, which emanates from the vision of its chairman, Deepak Parekh.
HDFC has grown 10 times over the last 10 years with more or less the same number of people. How have they managed to do that? They have a no stars policy. So they're ordinary people producing extraordinary results. And how has HDFC managed to do that? Because they trust the people.
So you're saying it's not so difficult even for traditional companies, because HDFC perhaps...
It's a very conservative, very traditional company. It hates risk.
But it never had a problem. It never had to probably transform itself, because it was always perhaps set up with those values. Now let's look at a group which has to transform itself, go from the 4 C's into this, what is it, SSDT.
All the trust, yeah.
Yes,
Support.
yes.
Then you have to walk through the valley of death.
From its humble 10 crore rupee share capital beginnings, HDFC rocketed its way to industry leadership with an asset base of 50,000 crore rupees in 2002. Success was effected through the single-minded dedication of its employees. The company actively discouraged the culture of stars and politics, and that drove performance. HDFC avoided recruiting from premier business schools. Instead, it focused on hiring and nurturing whom it called ordinary people, but people with exemplary integrity, commitment and an appetite for hard work, and willing to go that extra mile in an environment that promoted equality across the ranks.
You know, the starting requirement is indeed discipline together with support. Because what you're doing, you have an organization. Basically, you're starting with a top-down organization, CEO, big boss. Then we have this Russian doll model in a company. CEO is the big doll. Then the divisional heads are slightly smaller dolls. They look less as a CEO, slightly smaller. They go inside. Then the business unit heads, still smaller dolls. That's the model you have. That's how you work. You want to change it. I think the first thing you need to do is, the first step is entrepreneurship at the bottom. You have to give them freedom. You cannot give them freedom without discipline. Discipline is the automatic requirement of freedom, whether it be a society like India or a company like,
And you're saying often all of us misjudge the amount of discipline that already exists.
That's right.
Within people.
But make it clear, create the performance management systems, create the feedback processes, build the discipline, together with a changing role of the senior people in the middle, who are the most horrible controllers in companies, not the CEO typically, is the middle group, changing their role from this command and control role to much more of a coaching and support role. That's the first.
That's possibly the very difficult phase.
That is the first stage. Then comes the next stage of trying to build stretch and the trust. I do not believe you can build a real vision, real stretch or real trust till such time you have first built the foundation of discipline and support.
As we've seen, the essence of success is to get extraordinary results from ordinary people with that special will to excel. And that takes some learning, which is what we will be doing next week.
The lender is normally king and the borrower is way down. That we did not follow this practice from day one. We were the only game in town, we were the only player in town, but we gave respect. We understood the borrower's problem and we did not treat him like a borrower. We treated him like a client, like a customer.
First, you have to understand that a housing loan is a 15-year loan. Over a period of 15 years, anything can happen to that individual. He could be working in a company which closes down, there could be a strike in the company, lockout in the company, death in the family, illness in the family, because of which he's not able to pay for some period of time. In a situation where someone has fallen back on hard times, the house which he's bought is his single largest possession, and he doesn't want to do anything which would jeopardize the ownership of that house. And when you show him some understanding, when you show him sympathy, when you show him help at a time like this, it's something we should remember for all times to come.
Monetary rewards, our salaries are very much in the middle. But you know what we did, I think again going back to 10 years ago, as a management it was decided that let us not look at monthly monetary rewards, let us look at wealth creation. And I think we have very successfully done that for our employees. It's amazing, and a peon in my office also has a car.
These 4 lakh loans the loan to value ratio is about 50%, so the cost of the house is about 8 lakhs, is 400 square feet in a city like Bombay. Our average loan in Bombay is 450 square feet. It's one room kitchen. It is 10 kilometers the other side of the airport. That is where our borrowers come from.